Hello everyone, sorry for the delay. We had a nice little technical issue with YouTube events. It was not letting us launch it live. So, had to create a new event. Glad you could join us here on the new link. Feel free to send in your questions on the chat. We are here to answer them for you. So my name is Ari Swartz. I am the Assistant Director for the Office of Future Engineers. We do all the outreach for the undergraduate engineering programs. And tonight's focus is on basically applying to Purdue. As you're looking to apply, what questions you might have. Now, as a caveat, we're here to talk about overview of engineering. For technical questions about applying, that's definitely for the Office of Admissions, because they are the ones that will be reviewing all the applications and making the decisions. But we're happy to answer about student life, recommendations, anything you want to know about Purdue engineering as you're applying, or even considering if you want to apply to Purdue. So send in your questions. We're going to answer them live. I introduce myself. I'll have my students introduce themselves. Start with you, Kendrick.
Hi guys, my name is Kendrick. I'm originally from Glenview, Illinois. I'm a senior in computer engineering.
I'm Teddy. I'm originally from Bettendorf, Iowa, and I'm a junior in mechanical engineering.
Hi guys, I'm Jacob. I'm from Mount Prospect, Illinois. It's near Chicago, and I'm a junior in biomedical engineering.
Awesome. So I think I want to start with just what got Purdue on your radar? Like, what made you end up applying to Purdue? We'll start over here.
Okay, so it's not the conventional answer, but I didn't get into U of I, which was the first choice. And Purdue ended up being the next best option just because of prestige and how price worked out and location-wise near Chicago. But that being said, it kind of turned into the best option for me because I couldn't honestly imagine going to U of I at this point. In the 3 years that I've been here, have been the best 3 years that I've had so far.
Nice.
So my dad actually went to Purdue, and I think for that reason I initially really wasn't considering Purdue. Didn't want to kind of follow in his footsteps, but before my senior year of high school, I had the opportunity to do an engineering camp here called STEP, the seminar for top engineering prospects. But come here, got a week of just kind of feel Purdue engineering, and it really kind of sold me on it. And it's kind of like Jacob said, been the best 3 years of my life, so no regrets.
Nice.
Great. Yeah, Purdue was on my radar in terms of prestige and rankings. When I visited, one of the most important things to me was finding internship and co-op opportunities during my college career. And Purdue really pushed that, and now that I'm here, all the resources are available at your fingertips, and there's no better choice for me.
Nice. And I'm actually a Purdue alum as well, and my story is somewhat similar in that it was not my first choice initially. It was my last stop when I was visiting colleges, and it was only because I had family near Indianapolis that I even got on my radar. And I only visited because they kept telling me to. I didn't really know what Purdue was, have any interest. But after my visit, I just fell in love with campus. It sounds cliche, but it's true. Like, after my visit, I just knew it was the place I wanted to be. It felt small to me. When I learned more about the academics, the reputation, all the things I can get involved here, it was the right fit for me. So one of my biggest pieces of advice is always to visit the campuses in person that you're considering, either before or after you apply. You can wait till after you're admitted, and go visit the ones you're admitted to. But if you can, if at all possible, visit in person to kind of get that feel of the campus, and definitely visit during the school year too. All right, so let's get to some of the questions from our viewers. We have, this is a good one to start with even. What made you guys want to be engineers? So we talked about why Purdue, but why engineering specifically, the field of?
Sure. So in high school, I took some electrical courses, I took some CS courses, and for me, being a computer engineer, I was really interested in the hardware and software side of the major, and just kind of in a broad life term, applying that to help other people and advance the world in a meaningful way.
Nice.
Yeah, for me, I just kind of wanted to figure out how stuff worked. Like when I was a kid, I loved cars. I loved really anything that moved. And for me, I chose engineering ultimately, I think, because it gives you the freedom, it gives you the tools to really make anything you want and do anything you want. And that was kind of a powerful idea for me.
So me specifically, I really wanted to do something that something I could create and actually make an impact on people's lives, which is why I went for biomedical engineering. And I wanted that exposure to the medical side without being a doctor. I wanted to be someone who creates devices that go into the body, what the doctors use. And a big reason of why I chose it is because it's such a growing field. Engineering in general is, but BME specifically, it's just a super growing field, and I know that there'll be a job for me when I'm out of college.
Nice. So I just want to we've had a couple shout outs of people who've done STEP. So it's a shout out to fellow STEP people.
Come here.
STEP is obviously a very great program. So if there happen to be any juniors viewing today, there's a program called STEP, Seminar for Top Engineering Prospects. It's for those that are juniors going into their senior year. So it's that summer between your junior and senior year. If you just Google Purdue STEP, STEP, definitely look into it. It's a really cool week-long summer camp to really get a feel what it'd be like as an engineering student. We also had somebody ask if I did STEP, should I mention that on the application? Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, that was one of the reasons that you wanted to come to Purdue, right?
Yeah, I brought it up. Like I really enjoyed my time at STEP, and for me it was, it was a good engineering experience, but getting to kind of interact with some of the student body because it's student-led. Like students are leading everything. It was cool for me that they give up. It's a week-long program during the summer that they give up a week of their summers to come and just show people Purdue engineering. And I think you guys would agree. You walk around Purdue, everyone here is so willing to help you out, and we're all trying to spread kind of Purdue spirit, I guess. So definitely mention that.
Yeah, mention anything that you think is relevant on your application. Because the thing is, admissions isn't going to know things you've done unless you put on your application. And you should put everything you've been a part of. Even if you don't think it's overly relevant, if it's interesting, it shows part of your character, your passion, whatever it may be, put it on your application. Admissions is trying to get a feel for who you are. And the only way they're going to know who you are is you telling them about all of the things you've done. Especially if it's something that made you want to come to Purdue. So STEP, you can say, I went to STEP and I realized Purdue is the place for me. Absolutely include those sorts of things. They're always wanting to know, why Purdue, why engineering, but even more specifically, why Purdue over other places. So definitely include that on your application. So we have another question. What does first year engineering look like? This is a really common question because not many places have a first year engineering program. So let's see, I've got 2 juniors and a senior. So it's been a while, but who wants to talk about first year?
I can go first.
Sure.
So the whole idea behind first year engineering is to give you that kind of buffer for a year. It's hard to expect of someone right out of high school, this is the exact type of engineering I want to do. I'm ready to take 4 years of it and go into the workforce. So first year engineering is really meant to expose you to what the engineering thought process is like. And at the same time, they expose you to all the different types of engineering disciplines you can be a part of at Purdue. In that sense, it's just to give you a broad overview. And then after this first year is up, actually February of your first year, you'll apply for your first choices, and then you'll hear back that summer if you've got into those different fields.
Cool. So it sounds like we're having trouble hearing. I just tried to adjust the volume to see if that makes a difference. So if you continue having audio issues, let us know, and I'll continue trying to make some adjustments here on our end. Is that any better? It's about a 15-second delay, so we've got to wait a little bit. And there's specifically Jacob.
There we go. Restart.
Sure. So go ahead. Whatever. Do a quick recap.
Just quick recap of what I just said. So it's essentially meant to give you an overview of what engineering is and what the problem-solving skills entail and kind of questions that you'll start to answer when you look at the real world. And it's also meant to show you what each different type of engineering discipline is about during that first year. So when you apply, going into your second year, you'll know with more certainty what you want to pursue. So you're not really locked in. Like, let's say if you were to go direct admission to another university, you're not locked in. And let's say you didn't want to do that and you get put a year behind when you go to a different major. At Purdue, you don't end up in that situation because you have that buffer year.
Nice. Anything to add on first year engineering?
First year engineering is a great way to either figure out like this is what you want to do for the next 4 years, or maybe this isn't what I want to do for the next 4 years. It kind of goes either way, but either way it really cements what you want to do in your college career.
And I think most people, or a lot of people coming to college end up switching. I think that's one of the best parts about having a first year engineering program is a lot of people come in thinking one engineering major and end up switching. Like I came in thinking biomedical, switched to mechanical. One of my roommates came in biomedical, switched to nuclear. One came in chemical, switched to civil. So you have a lot of opportunities to figure out what you want to do because there's no way that we would ever expect you to know exactly what engineering discipline you want to do coming in.
So I was distracted by the sound. Did we talk about the very basics of what first year engineering even is and how it works? So the basics are you're going to take all these core, science and math classes. You're going to take calculus, physics, chemistry, potentially a computer science class. If you're going to go into electrical or computer engineering. So you're going to get all those. And then if you're bringing in credit from high school, You'll probably just take a different level maybe of these categories. So instead of Calc 1, maybe Calc 2 or 3. And then you're going to take our 2 first-year engineering classes, which we were kind of alluding to earlier, where you're paired into teams, and you do team projects through all of it. And the idea is to give you that overview of all the different opportunities in engineering, as well from a major perspective, as well as those foundational engineering skills, prepare you for all of them. So I've got 2 questions for you guys as well. We're talking about first year. First of all, what was your favorite project you guys did in first year engineering? If you can, I know it's been a while for you.
I'm gonna let those guys.
So our final semester deliverable was about 4 weeks, the last 4 weeks of the semester, and the whole goal there was to create an exhibit, a STEM exhibit that would teach, I think K through 5th graders more about STEM and get them interested in it when it's time to go to high school and college. So it was a really cool experience. We actually got to make prototypes. So what my team decided to do was exploring how light would refract through different mediums. So things like water, oil, different things like that. And they actually brought an elementary school in to test all of our prototypes. We got real-time feedback from all of the kids. Went back to our prototypes, started to change things up. And then the actual winners of the final deliverable, which was decided by the professors, and the K through 5th graders, they actually got to go and implement their design into an actual museum for younger students in West Lafayette. So I don't actually know who won. We didn't win, but still, it was just a really cool experience to see that we actually have the actual impact on people in the West Lafayette community.
And so I actually did the honors track first year engineering. So it's a little more project based. It's the same kind of fundamentals. You're working in a team. But we did 2 different robot projects. So I think my favorite was the second semester. So we had to create a robot that would follow a line, pick up some boxes along the way, and then transport these boxes to some kind of predetermined locations along a course. So you had to integrate kind of your mechanical design skills, your coding skills, and a lot of different things to kind of solve the problem in the optimal way. It was really fun. We spent the last 8 weeks of the semester working on it and gained a lot of skills that I was able to talk about with companies and stuff later.
Nice. Anything
Nothing to add, but I think those projects pretty much sum up first year engineering.
Yeah, the whole point is all of the projects you're going to do in first year engineering, they usually kind of change a little bit every year, but they're always going to have real world applications. Sometimes you're going to work on things for actual clients. We've had some companies sponsor projects in the past. But at the very least, it's going to have a practical use. It's going to be a real world case study or something like that even as a freshman, you're going to see how things really work in the engineering field and then let you figure out which one you want to go into. So that's my second question for you guys about first year is, did any of you change your mind about what engineering major you thought you wanted to do in first year engineering?
I didn't. Yeah, I don't know how else to answer that.
You knew what you wanted to do?
Yeah, I just knew that I wanted to do biomedical, and that was kind of that's kind of something that it's a good mindset to come into. Occasionally, if you're going into, let's say, a major that's a little more difficult to get into, if you come here with that mindset of, I'm here for BME or I'm here for Aero or something, that first year engineering is really a good way to just prep you up for that and really get acquainted with engineering before you go into that major. But no, I didn't change my mind, which is a rarity among most first year engineers.
So then along with that is some of the concerns we get from students like, I know I want to be a biomedical engineer, I know I want to be an aeronautical engineer, why do I have to start in first year engineering? Isn't that going to be a waste of my time? How would you respond to that question?
Absolutely not. I had no idea what engineering entailed. I thought I did, but I didn't going into first year engineering, and that kind of opened up my views as to what engineers actually do. And a lot of that even was coding. Like, you think an engineer would know how to code going into college, and I had no clue, and that's what first year engineering showed me. And I use MATLAB, it's a coding software, in at least one class in BME every semester. So what first year engineering teaches you is super vital. And honestly, Purdue is able to fit in what you need to learn to get that Bachelor's of Science for that degree in the 3 years. You don't need the 4 years.
Nice. How about, did you end up changing your mind?
Yeah, so like I mentioned a little bit earlier, I came in thinking biomedical and then ended up switching to mechanical. And I was really set on biomedical coming in. Like, I really wanted to work on prosthetics, and I really wanted to be able to help people in that way. But I think getting here, I realized that I could still do that, but I knew that I really wanted to look at it from kind of a mechanical design perspective. I really like mechanical design. I did a little bit of that in high school, and so I ended up going mechanical. Through first year engineering, you have lots of different, industrial field trips, you have presentations from professors and current students in the programs. The mechanical one just really sold me on it, and I'm really happy. I've loved every mechanical class I've taken.
Nice. How about you, Kendrick?
Yeah, in terms of ECE, the classes that you take in first year engineering, CS class and learning MATLAB and everything, I excelled in those classes, and that pretty much cemented the logical decision behind it.
Nice. Yeah, so we actually find whenever students apply to first year engineering at Purdue, or apply to engineering in general, this is important to know, when you apply to Purdue for engineering, you apply to first year engineering. When you're on the Common App or the Coalition App, you're going to choose the College of Engienering and first year engineering. If you see anything that is engineering technology, that's in Polytechnic. That's a entirely different academic college here at Purdue. So if you want to be in engineering, you want to apply to first year engineering. It also, though, asks you what major in engineering you're interested in. It has zero impact on your application. Like, everyone's on an equal playing field applying to first year. We just ask what major just to kind of track interest. And so we actually also use that to track our students over time. So for students that started in their major in engineering as sophomores this year, 44% of the students went into a different engineering major than what they had initially indicated on their application. So nearly half our students changed their mind about what engineering field they wanted to go into. So that's kind of the whole point, is we give you an entire year. You don't choose your major until halfway through your second semester, and you can even change all the way through until the end of the semester. So you have basically your entire first year to explore all the opportunities and figure out what you want to go into. So hopefully, that is a little bit of good news if you're not really sure what major you want to do, as well as if you're like dead set that it's still not going to be a waste of time. You're going to get all these foundational skills. It's also really cool from a social standpoint, because you're going to make friends that are going to go into different engineering majors where you might have not have met them if you'd gone straight into your major. So it's just kind of cool all around, really. And who knows, you might change your mind. All right, so back to our viewer questions then. What kinds of hands-on projects or learning opportunities are there in the engineering department, specifically mechanical engineering? This is a very broad question because there's a lot. We have a question that kind of goes along with that of what is EPICS. So we're talking about hands-on projects. Let's talk about EPICS. Has anybody done, any of you guys done EPICS?
I did a summer in EPICS actually, just this past summer. So we were on a team that was working for the Columbian Park Zoo, which is a non-for-profit zoo over in Lafayette. And, as an ECE, we were put on a team with other mechanical engineers that built this donation box. And basically what we worked on is different mechanical portions, strengthening the structure, developing new kind of modules for the donation box, while I worked on a lot of the electrical and computer electronic components on that side. So EPICS is technically stands for Engineering Projects in Community Service. However, there are many different majors that can participate in EPICS. So you might be working with, science majors or liberal arts majors. It's a really good overall holistic view of, group projects and everything.
Yeah, all the projects that we do in EPICS, we're sitting outside of our Welcome Center for the Office of Future Engineers, and the EPICS lab is actually right over here. You can't see it on camera, but if you were to come, you could see some of the projects they do, but all of them are basically community service oriented, either through education or actual service projects or building prosthetic devices, assistive technologies. There's all sorts of things that go on in EPICS. We've got over 50 teams and I believe over 200 different projects. And one of the other cool things about EPICS is not only are you getting great hands-on experience in engineering, getting community service out of it as well, but all of our clients, we don't have to send a bill to. We're able to do all of this at no cost to them because we have grants and sponsorships and all sorts of other types of funding. So all of this helps our project partners, and we don't have to send them a bill, which is really neat. So that's one of the coolest ways, I think, that you can get some great hands-on experience. It is a class. You're going to get class credit for it as well. And they teach you all the skills you need along the way. There's also obviously a lot of other ways to get some great hands-on experience. I've seen some questions about research and what that is like. Who's done research?
Done a semester.
Yeah. What did you do, and how did you get involved in your research, and what did you do?
So you can do it as a freshman. It's just a little more rare. So I'll talk about it when I did it as a sophomore. In each sophomore engineering discipline, you'll have a seminar course, and in that seminar course, a lot of times you'll have professors who will come in and talk about their research, and they're there because they're looking for undergrads to work in their lab. So that's how I got my research opportunity. I was in non-invasive cardiovascular imaging. I did it for about a semester. And just me personally, I found that research on an institutional setting at Purdue just wasn't really my cup of tea. That doesn't mean I don't like research. I do research at my co-op, but I did have a cool exposure to a lot of really high-grade equipment that people wouldn't get exposure to. I got to do a little bit of cancer research. I made a great connections with my professor and grad students. But you don't have to get research from a professor who comes to your seminar class. You could literally just email a professor or give them a phone call. Most of the time they're looking for undergrads that they want to keep for the entirety of their undergrad experience. And I've actually had a lot of friends who have graduated and gone on to industry, not grad school, and have already had 2 or 3 published papers in their name. So in general, getting research experience at Purdue is very easy. We have a lot of professors doing research, and it's constantly growing, and it's a big source of profit for the school as well.
Yeah, I will say we are an R1 undergraduate institution, and so we have over 2,000 undergraduate-specific research projects going on across campus every year. So there's lots of ways to get involved, and most students I hear from, they just send an email to professors that were doing research they were interested in, and just saying that. And then they're like, yeah, show up, we'll get you trained on the lab. Do you have you done
I don't
research?
have research experience.
You haven't done research?
I don't know.
At least we had one, so that's great. I will say research is also a great way to determine if you want to go into grad school. So if you're thinking about doing grad school, is it for me? Getting involved in research is a great way to kind of tell, because that's going to be most of your graduate school career is doing research. But it's also just great to really be on like the cutting edge of your field. You can also do research outside of your field. So if you're majoring in biomedical, you could even do research in mechanical engineering or electrical engineering if those are other interests of yours. And so you're also not limited in scope of what kind of research you can get involved in either. So lots and lots of opportunities for internships or for research. I do want to say, just based on some comments I've been seeing, I want to do a brief side note here. There's some incorrect information being shared in our chat. So how hard is it to get into the engineering school? I will say it is not hard. We admitted about 49% of applicants, of those that applied to engineering for the start this fall. So 48% thereabouts. And it is not easier to start in another major and transfer into engineering. That's actually more difficult to do, especially if you're starting at another university and trying to transfer to Purdue. It's a much lower acceptance rate because most of our programs fill up from students already on campus. So I do not recommend starting another university and trying to transfer here unless that's the only option you have. The other thing about getting into your major, so we kind of talked about first year, everyone starts in first year, but we didn't really talk about how you transition to your major in engineering. It's actually a very simple process. In the second semester, about halfway through your second semester freshman year, you will be able to go into our course software for your first year engineering class, and you'll select your top 2 choices of engineering major. And essentially how it works is, as long as there is room in the major you want, and you passed all your first year engineering classes, all the classes you need, you're in. And that happened for, to do my math correctly, 13 of our 17 majors accepted every single student that wanted it, as long as you passed your first year classes. We have 4 majors that the last few years we have more students select than there are spots, and that happens for mechanical engineering, aeronautical engineering, chemical engineering, and biomedical engineering. And the way that happens for just those 4 majors, it's based on GPA. Students with a 3.2 or higher are generally placed first and are almost guaranteed their first choice. And the average GPA for our first year engineering students last year was a 3.23. So really, you've got a really, really good shot at getting into your major. As long as you do well in your classes, you're going to be totally fine, get the major you want. Only about 10% of our students did not get their first choice last year. And considering the average GPA was above that 3.2 guarantee, that means that was probably just the bottom 10% of the class that didn't get their first choice. So it's very rare that it happens. If you don't get your first choice, there's also lots of flexibility. You can go into a second choice, or what a lot of students will do is you can stay in first year engineering for 1 to 2 more semesters, retake some classes, get your grades back up, and then you can get into your first choice. Or at the very end of the day, if you just determine engineering is not for you, we'll help you find a major outside of engineering at Purdue that is a good fit for you. But even that's really rare. About 90% of our students stay in engineering from their freshman year to their sophomore year. We have a 90% first year retention rate. So on the whole, it is very doable to get the major you want. It is very doable to be successful in our programs. We really want our students to succeed. It is not a weed out program. And it is highly, highly recommended that you try to start in first year engineering and not try to start in a different academic program and then try to come over into engineering from elsewhere. If you want to go that route, it is possible, but it's not guaranteed. And if you are interested in learning more about that route, send us an email to our office. It's future-engineers@purdue.edu. We'll put that in the chat. Send us an email saying that you're looking into moving into engineering from a different program, but that's really should be a last resort. We always recommend if you want to be in engineering at Purdue, apply to first year engineering as your first choice on your application, and then you can have a backup major as your second choice. But definitely apply to first year engineering because you never know, you might get in and you don't have to worry about a backup plan. So I just want to throw that out there to make sure we cover that. And I want to try to dispel some of the rumors that it's really hard to get into both engineering in general as well as your major, because it's really not hard for either case. All right, so back to hands-on opportunities. Let's also talk about internship and co-ops. I've seen some questions about both. So first of all, difference between internships and co-ops. Internships are generally a one and done deal, one at a time. Go intern full-time for a company over the summer, and then you may be invited to do another one later on. You may not. It's just kind of a one at a time contract, if that makes sense. Co-op, on the other hand, is a long-term structured work program where you'll do multiple work sessions with an employer before you graduate. So we have 3-session and 5-session co-op programs at Purdue, which means you'll spend 3 or 5 working terms with one single employer. So co-op's really great if you know what industry you want to go into. You're going to spend 3 to 5 terms within that industry or even company. Whereas internship's great if you're not sure what industry or what kind of company you want to work for. You can intern with different companies every summer and kind of get a broad experience in that route. So they're both awesome opportunities. There's both have plenty of possibilities and employers to apply to. It's all about what you're looking for. So how many of you guys have internship or co-op? I know you have co-op and internship.
I think all of us
I have
All of
co-op
you?
and internship.
Nice,
We all
awesome,
both,
love
yeah.
it. So let's talk about what we've done.
Do we want to talk about IR as well?
Sure, yeah.
Okay, so how I got my co-op and internship was from Industrial Roundtable, IR. So essentially what that is, in about the 3rd or 4th week of the fall semester of every year, you're going to have about 400 plus companies that are going to come to Purdue for 2 days and recruit just engineering majors. Like I said, it's 2 days. It's kind of like pandemonium. Everyone's kind of running around trying to talk to recruiters, and it's kind of chaos, but it's a lot of fun, and it's a really exciting environment. And what's really cool about it is all of these employers will hold on-campus interviews within the next couple of weeks. So you don't have to go anywhere, although it'd be really nice to be flown up to Florida or something. But you don't have to go anywhere. We actually, Purdue offers the most on-campus interviews out of any university in the U.S. So I've gotten to skip classes to go to interviews at sometimes, and my professors are totally about that. But the way that mine worked was I talked to a recruiter. They got back to me about a week later with a phone call, and then they gave me an interview, and about 5 days later, they gave me a 4-rotation co-op, which completely changed the course of college and the course of my professional career. So it was a really short turnaround time, and that's kind of how it works for most people. Co-ops are all paid. Sometimes they're all for benefits. My friend had a 401k match. I was subsidized to live in a really nice apartment in Indianapolis. And overall, amazing experience. That's how I got the co-op. As far as the co-op itself, so I got a co-op my first rotation this summer in Indianapolis working for Eli Lilly. It's a pharmaceutical company. And it was an absolutely incredible experience, like nothing I'd expect. They treated me like a full-time employee. I had hands-on business critical projects with a device called Trulicity. You guys may have seen that. But it was a really, really cool exposure, and I'll get to go back this upcoming spring. I'll take a year off of school, and then I'll come back for school for 1 semester, and then go back to Lilly over the summer. But all in all, just the co-op itself, I'll have about 60 weeks of hands-on work exposure before graduating.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so I did actually, I guess a little bit of a different case, but I did a 1-term co-op, so basically like an internship during the year, kind of with our conical port castings in LaPorte, Indiana. So just like Jacob, I took a semester off school and worked. And like he said, as a full-time employee, working just as many hours as anyone, I had very meaningful projects. I don't know if you guys would agree, it's actually good to be an intern because you're kind of free to do a lot of different kind of work on your own, don't have to go to as many meetings and stuff. And then last summer I worked at John Deere as a manufacturing design engineer. And then this upcoming summer I'll be working at Boeing as a production support engineer.
Awesome. And then Kendrick, you've got a lot. We've got you've got 19 minutes before we have to leave.
Yeah. So I participated in the co-op and internship program. The summer after my freshman year, I started a co-op session with General Motors, where I worked in validation engineering for infotainment systems. And ever since then, I went back to GM 4 more times, doing different positions, mostly in infotainment and some in electrical production. And that really gave me a wide variety of experiences that ultimately led up to me doing a year-long internship at Tesla out in California, working on the Model 3 General Assembly manufacturing production. So it really builds, co-op really builds upon the sessions that you've done beforehand. It's almost like taking classes in a major. You're building on skills every time you go back, and with every subsequent co-op session, you're given more and more responsibilities. Sometimes your pay goes up, benefits as well, and that all ultimately leads to securing a full-time position, because yes, this company has taken you in 5 times, and they're confident that you can show and demonstrate those full-time capabilities.
And I think we would all probably agree that, maybe you guys are a little nervous about co-op, having to take time off school and stuff. But I think we would all agree that it's absolutely worth it. Like, I think with a co-op, your employer invests a little more in you. You have a longer experience. It'll be, if you have one during the year, it'll be like 16 weeks instead of 10 to 12 weeks. You can get a little deeper into some projects, get to do a little more. So if you guys are concerned at all with, taking time off school, it's totally worth it. And just like all engineering internships and co-ops are paid too, so don't have to worry about that.
And paid very well, not just paid very well.
Very well.
It's internships and co-ops are a great way to help subsidize the cost of your education, because you're paid a significant enough salary that you can help pay down a lot of your expenses for the next school year. Co-op is really great in that regard, because you usually alternate semesters with your co-op. With a typical rotation, you're going to be on campus one semester, then off campus the next semester working full time, and you only pay for tuition when you're on campus. So basically, you're going to be on campus studying, pay tuition for that semester, then you're going to go work full time, get a ton of money, and then you go back and take, like, say, summer classes, and which you've pretty well paid for through your co-op rotation. And then by the time you're a poor, college student again, you go back to work the next semester, make a lot of money, which then pays for the next semester. So, but even internships too, though, will help build up a lot of money to help pay for that next year of school. So it is one of the often overlooked ways of paying for college. When you're looking at tuition and fees and that sort of thing, is a lot of times internships and co-ops go overlooked as a great source of income for engineering. I am seeing some questions about, are you less likely to get accepted to Purdue as an out-of-state student? How many of you guys are out of state? Which ones? All 3 of them are out of state. We're actually 50% of our undergraduate engineering students are out of state, with another 18% being international. So we are a very, very diverse engineering student body. We have all 50 states represented. We have over 100 countries represented. So I wouldn't say it's less likely being out of state than it is to be in state. It's a pretty level playing field, I would say. So definitely don't fret about being an out-of-state student as far as the difficulty of getting in. So I just want to put that out there too, since that seemed to be on a lot of people's minds with a lot of up arrows pointing back at that question. I am looking at the chat. Awesome. And then we are keeping a list of all your questions. There's a ton that we're going to try to get to. I do have 2 students in the background that are taking those questions, sending them to me, and also answering some of them behind the scenes. So if we don't get to your question, I'll try my best to get to it. We'll try to go through as many as we can here. So let's find another one that's kind of based on application things. So here's a quick one. Does being a legacy student help or not? I will say it does not. All students are considered based on the student, which really, that's probably in your benefit, honestly. We want students that are going to be successful here, and whether you're dad or granddad, that doesn't really reflect on you. We want to see how you are as a person. So you can definitely include that on your application. They'll ask you, and that's more just for tracking to see how many legacy students, kind of come back to Purdue. But if it is a reason that you're interested in Purdue is because there's a long legacy, you can include that in your application, just as showing why you want to be here. But it's not necessarily like a leg up, if that makes sense. So who did honors? Just you? Cool. We have a question about, we actually have a lot of questions about honors. Can you explain honors college more? Is it worth it? And I guess, did you mention you didn't stay in the honors track?
I'm still in it.
You're still in it? Okay.
Yeah.
Somebody asked, why did you not stay in it?
I'm still in honors.
Cool. So do you want to talk about how is honors first year engineering different from the regular first year? And then what do you do after that?
Yeah, absolutely. So both first year engineering programs are great. They both get you really good skills that you're going to use later on in your classes. But the honors track is just a little bit more project based than the normal track. So you start out with kind of a team builder project. So we did like a mousetrap car in my class. Moved on to an analysis based project. So we modeled, for instance, a bioprinter using code. So looking at what combination of inputs, print speeds, that kind of stuff would result in the optimal, organ that you're printing. And then finally we did that robot project that I mentioned earlier. So the Purdue's honors program is partnered with the Harris Corporation, which is a Florida-based defense company, and they kind of give us requirements for all the projects, and then ultimately judge them. And so it's a little more project-based, I would say. They're both awesome programs. I think the normal track, you learn a lot of skills that you're going to be using later on in your classes, like MATLAB and stuff, but kind of the same principles underlie them. And really the only difference between normal engineering and honors engineering is that first year engineering class. So you take that, and then you have to take, it would be 17 extra credits of honors courses during your time at Purdue. So it's pretty much like a minor, definitely manageable to do. And I would say all those classes are fairly easy and very interesting, I think. So I took a sports and politics class. I'm a big NFL football fan, New England Patriots fan. It's why my voice is a little bit creaky because I was at the Patriots game on Sunday. And so we looked at like the NFL anthem protests. We look at historical precedents for different things going on in sports right now, and it was really fun. But I will say that honors is, I think, more for personal development than professional development. I don't think companies really care all that much if you're in honors, but I think it's fun. I absolutely do not regret going into honors. I think all you guys, it's 2 essays maybe? Is it 2 essays now?
Yeah, it's 2 essays on the application, yeah.
I think absolutely go for it. You get to live in the brand new honors dorm, which is really nice. Honors students do get priority registration, but like I said, it's more of a personal thing. For me, it just kind of helps break up, all the math and science and stuff, getting to throw in a, kind of fun class every once in a while. That's not engineering related.
You gotta go Pates, by the way.
Yes.
From Danny.
It's Danny.
So, honors college can lend to some great experiences, and at Purdue at least, for engineering especially, employers don't really care if you're in the honors program, to be honest. And so it's also not like a status symbol of being in the honors college. The honors college at Purdue is for those that want to go the extra mile, want to go beyond the typical plan of study, go much more in depth and challenge themselves even further. So it's much more for personal gain and personal enrichment than it is for a status or for professional gain of trying to impress employers. So I always say don't feel obligated to apply to honors. If it doesn't sound interesting to you, don't worry about it. We've got a 95% placement rate for engineering graduates, and I don't know the exact percentage. I want to say about 15 maybe percent of engineering students are in honors. So you're going to get a job, you're going to get a high-paying job either way. Honors is more about personal enrichment than it is professional gain. So if that sounds interesting to you, definitely apply. Go for it. If you're not interested in honors, though, that's totally cool. Don't worry about it. There's no pressure to apply to honors college at Purdue. It is a great program. I'm not trying to say it's not a great program. I just want to make sure nobody feels obligated. Because it's different here. It's more about a challenge than it is about I'm an elite honors kid.
definitely not a status thing at all. Yeah.
I heard Purdue gets very cold. Yeah, it gets a little chilly here. It's probably like 40 degrees outside right now, but it's bearable. I mean, where's everybody? You're from?
I'm from Chicago.
Chicago.
I'm from Iowa.
Chicago. So they're all from cold. I'm from Oklahoma originally. I hate cold weather, but I've been here for 10 years now. I've been able to survive 10 years of the cold. So I promise it's bearable. You just get a good winter coat, and you're good to go.
Makes you stronger.
It makes you stronger, yeah. It builds character.
Build character.
Yeah, absolutely. We also have a lot of students here from California. It's like our 3rd largest student population. It's like Indiana, Illinois, and then California. And they've all survived, obviously. So yeah, it's kind of an advantage though. We get all 4 seasons here, so you get kind of a change. And sometimes all 4 seasons are in 1 week. You just never know. It's one of the joys
in the Midwest,
of living in the Midwest and in Indiana. So that's fun. Chicago is colder. Yeah, Chicago is a little bit colder. And it definitely snows a lot more up there. Here it just kind of gets cold, a little windy.
It doesn't snow that much.
I guess if you're east of Chicago, it gets a lake effect.
Yeah.
Just windy.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't get a lot of snow here, so if you're afraid of snow, that's cool. We'll get like a couple inches at a time. We don't get like feet of snow at a time. I've never seen that here. I've never seen that in my life, let alone here. So yeah. So let's get back to more of the application-based things. I'm seeing some questions about AP credit. So I did post a link earlier to the credit transfer database on Admissions' website. We do give credit for AP and for international baccalaureate, as well as dual credit programs. I can post that link again, but if you go on there, you'll see all the different ways of getting credit at Purdue. And for the AP, generally a 4 or a 5 will get you credit for a class. And again, if you go there, it'll show you every single AP test. It'll tell you exactly what class you're going to get if you get a 4, what class you're going to get if you get a 5. It's very straightforward. With GPA, just some quick things about how they look at your things. GPA is unweighted, so whatever it is, it's going to be out of a 4.0. So that's something to consider. The average GPA for students that were admitted for this fall was a 3.82, I want to say, if I remember correctly, somewhere around a 3.82 to 3.85. ACT and SAT scores are super scored, but it's a modified super scoring is what admissions says. So basically, submit all the scores you've taken from across all the times you've taken them, and then admissions will take the highest score from each category, regardless of which time that was taken. The reason it's not true super scoring is because they don't create a new composite from those highest scores. So they're going to take your highest composite, they're going to take your highest subject, like your highest math, your highest English, but they don't create a new composite. That's why it's not true super scoring, but they are going to look at the best score for every category and try to find the best bits of you overall. So a couple things on those with that. All right, so as a top engineering school, how big are the class sizes? What's the size of the first year classes, specifically like your lecture classes? And yeah, we'll leave it with that for now. So how do you guys feel about the class sizes?
So for my major specifically, it's pretty small. There's 87 people per grade. So all the core BME classes that you take are going to be 87 people, which is really small, and you get to know the professor on a first name basis. In terms of the first year engineering courses, some of them were pretty big. I'd say like freshman physics was maybe 300 people. Some of the classes can be a lot smaller, like communications that you take. I took it in a class of 20 people. But if the thing to worry about is big lecture halls and not being able to learn in them, that really shouldn't be a worry, because we have a bunch of supplemental resources for you to learn from. So there's supplemental instruction where you can go and relearn the lecture and the material. There's TAs everywhere, and they run on college hours, not adult hours, so any time of the day. The professor will have a lot of open office hours. There'll be GroupMes where you can go in and ask questions to your entire class. And there's a whole bunch of resources. And the reason that Ari was saying that it's not a weed out school is because they give you all the resources you need to be successful, and there really isn't any reason you should be. But just back to that main question is, freshman year there can be some bigger classes, but they're also smaller ones as well.
And all of your first year engineering classes, so your calc, physics, chemistry, they're all going to have what we call recitations, which is you mentioned getting up with a teaching assistant. It's a smaller, maybe 30, 40 people in one class, where you take quizzes, get homework questions answered, that kind of thing. And all of your first year engineering classes will have a recitation. So that definitely helps make the larger class sizes a little more manageable.
Definitely. And as the course curriculum goes on throughout your years here at Purdue, for example, my senior lab classes, we have 10 to 2 TAs actually. So there's 10 people in my class, and there's two TAs for that section. So as you go down in your college career, the class sizes get smaller because of the number of classes that you can take. So people will take different options.
Nice. And then Kendrick, I know you need to go to a meeting. It's about 5 till 8, 4 till 8. So if you need to leave, I understand. Our students do things besides just kind of sit around and chat.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for coming. I appreciate it. We'll see you, Kendrick. But I still will have these guys, still have all 3 of us, for the rest of the remaining hour. All right. So I also had a question, kind of following up on the AP. Couple things. So is it better to take the credit and go to the next level, or should I go down a level for an easier grade? I have a take on that. What's you guys' take on that? So did you decide to not take any of the credit you received, or how did you approach that?
So, okay. There's kind of 2 ways to think about it. So you can either transfer all your credit, get out of some classes, maybe take a less course load, or you can not transfer the credit, have already done the class, and have an easy A kind of. There's two ways to think about it. So I transferred all my credit, and that's freed me up a little bit. So like I mentioned, I co-opted, so that's freed me up to kind of fit a one-term co-op into my schedule. It's freed me up to take a few more classes that I want to take, but really I don't think you can go wrong either way. I don't know what your opinion is on it, Jacob, but.
So for me, it's kind of up to you. If you got good AP scores and you really trust that your high school was really good in preparing you for future classes based on calculus and physics and things like that, then definitely take it. But I will say it's a risky decision because if you do opt to take that credit, you cannot go backwards. And if you do opt to take the credit and take more difficult courses, that's not something that they'll take into account when you're going into your second year engineering, into your specific program. So with GPA being everything, if you take that risk and those classes tend to be more difficult, other people have a leg up on you if they started from scratch. So it's something you really, really need to be careful with.
Yeah, I will say, if you're interested in any of the majors outside of aeronautical, biomedical, chemical, mechanical, you don't have to worry about as much as GPA as far as trying to get into your major, but it really depends. So when I came in, I had credit for Calc 1, and I was like, well, for that kind of the same reason, like, I'm going to go ahead and retake Calc 1, it'll be an easy A, it'll help my GPA. That really wasn't the case for me. It's a lot harder in college than it is in high school, and so I had to do a lot extra work to make sure I did well in stuff I already knew. I got a C on my first physics calculus 1 exam, and I'd taken it in high school. And so to me, I felt like I'd wasted my time was making it harder on myself for things I already knew that I should have just gone into Calc 2. You can actually find on the math department's website, they list all their past exams. So we recommend if you're getting credit for Calc 1 or 2 or even 3, go online, take the last final for whatever class you're getting credit for, see how you did. And then if you did really well, I would actually just take the credit and move on to the next level. If it was kind of shaky, you might want to retake it. But we really don't want you to consider it as an easy A because it may not be that for everybody. It might be for some people, but it may not be for everyone. So it really is kind of a personal preference. Anything outside of math and science, though, take the credit. Like I can't even talk. Humanities, arts, science, like arts or language, anything you get outside of math and science, take that credit. Because it's going to free up your plan of study to focus more on a minor or maybe multiple minors or just to take it easier your senior year. But for one of those more technical courses, it's kind of a personal preference, how comfortable you felt with the material as far as if you want to take that credit or not. I haven't had to take a single gen ed since coming to Purdue, since I transferred in, like you said, a lot of humanities credit. I transferred Calc 1, that was my only kind of STEM related class that I transferred, but transferred a lot of humanities stuff, and that's just freed me up to take classes I want to take. Nice. Yeah, so it really is, it's kind of all across the board. So if you want to hear from more student perspectives, feel free to reach out to our office, and we can have more of our students kind of let you know what their experience was. I'm trying to get something open on here. There it is. We also had a question about GPA. I just want to address that real quick. So if your GPA is on the lower end, like below 3.82, unweighted, that was just the average. Trying to pull up here the middle 50% for admitted students. If I can find it, I thought I had it on these cards. Maybe I don't. Okay, well, I will say there's a lot. Oh, here we go. Here they are. So the middle 50% of average GPA ranged from a 3.72 up to a 3.98. That was in the middle 50%. The average was a 3.82. So bear in mind, 25% of admitted students were below a 3.72 and above a 3.98. So I'll just say that's only one out of many, 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 many factors they're looking at on your application. They don't actually even look at your cumulative GPA. They look at GPA, your grades in classes relevant to what you're applying to. So for engineering, they're going to be looking at your grades and what kind of classes you took in math and physics and chemistry and science, even your English grades. But they're not going to be as concerned about the grades you got in history or art. Now, do well in all your classes. Obviously, don't just slack off in your history or art class. But they're going to be less concerned about a C in art as they would be seeing a C in physics. So GPA isn't the be all do all. There's a lot of other factors. Really, they're looking at the academic rigor. What kind of courses have you taken? How well were you doing in all your classes? Kind of academic trends. Then they'll also look at test scores. They'll look at the grades in the relevant classes, but they don't even really look at cumulative GPA. So don't get too caught up on the GPA or even the test scores. If you are curious though, the average test scores for admitted students for this fall, for students that started this fall, for the ACT, the middle 50% range from a 31 to a 34, with the average being a 32. For the SAT, it ranged from a 1370 to a 1500, with the average being a 1432. And again, that's just the middle 50% and the average. There's people outside of that range as well. So there's a whole lot of factors that go into the admissions process. Basically, admissions looks at everything: your academics, your extracurricular involvement, your test scores, your passion, why you want to be at Purdue, what makes you tick, essentially. And then looking at all that information, try to get a feel for if you have what it takes to be successful here. Because the last thing I want to do is to admit a student that's going to come and end up failing, because that's not fair to you. And so that's what they're looking for, is just to see if you have what it takes to be successful. And there's a lot of different formulas for that. There's not one right formula. So I just wanted to address those, kind of get that out there to address some of those concerns that I've been seeing in the chat as well. All right, so let's get back to some more viewer questions. Here's a quick and easy one. What is the percentage of women engineering? I don't know if they cover that in the chat. It is 26% of our undergraduate engineering students are girls. Doesn't sound like a lot, but we're about 9,400 undergraduate engineering students, so 26% of 9,400 is a lot. We're actually in the top 5 for producing women engineers in the country. I can't remember if we're number 3 or number 4. I want to say we're number 3 producer of women engineers in the country. So I know it's been all dudes here on the screen, but actually our 2 behind-the-scenes students are both women in engineering, Sarah and Nellie. So they're some of the ones that are answering your questions there in the chat. But it's 26% overall. Our first year engineering class this fall is 28% female. So we've been growing every year for the last 5 years. We've had a 40% growth just in the last 5 years alone. So there are girls here. They will be in your classes. So for girls, you will have that networking opportunity. You will feel supported and welcome when you come here. So I'm sorry we couldn't have a girl on screen tonight. We did have Cecilia was supposed to be here, but she had a meeting come up at the last minute. So you get to hang out with us guys instead. But yes, we do have a lot of girls here in our programs. All right, do you guys all live on campus? And if so, how is it? Or where do you live now?
You go for it.
So I live off campus. Freshman year I did live on campus, which was an absolutely great decision. I think most people opt for it, mainly because when you're going to college, you have a whole bunch of things to juggle, and cooking for yourself and figuring out how to live like a normal person probably shouldn't be on your mind. So that first year I lived on campus, and then I decided to move off campus. And I say off campus, I'm not in academic housing, but I'm still really close to academic campus where I can walk to my class within 15 minutes. Generally, you can walk to anywhere on Purdue within 25 minutes. But it's definitely an interesting experience cooking for myself every week, usually every week, and doing laundry and stuff. So it's a big learning curve, and it's definitely part of a college that I've enjoyed. But off campus, it's a lot more freedom. I can have friends over past quiet hours, which is usually like 10 or 11 p.m. at night. But either way, you can't go wrong. It's really your preference. The only thing that would probably make me move back to the dorms if I could is the meal plans, because our food is unbelievable.
It's actually really good.
Yeah, I gained 30 pounds my freshman and sophomore year combined, and I'm still losing it, trying. So.
Yeah, I lived on campus my entire time, largely because of the dining courts. I also just really enjoyed the community atmosphere in the dining court, or in the dining courts, but in the residence hall, getting to know everyone on your floor, having all sorts of events to go to. So the first time I moved into an apartment, I thought it was weird. It's like, I don't know anybody that lives here. Like, this is strange. I'm all by myself. So I really liked living in the residence halls. Some people will move into Greek life or to cooperative housing. So really there's all sorts of opportunities for housing no matter what you're interested in. The other cool thing that I really liked is, Greek, we have a very active participation in Greek life here at Purdue, but it's not your defining characteristic. Nobody really cares if you're in the Greek system or not. I never did it. I never felt like an outcast. It's not the first question when you meet somebody is, what house are you in? So it's definitely there for those that want to do it. There's a lot of participation in it, but also if you have no interest in it whatsoever, that's cool too. Nobody really cares. So Yeah, and then did you talk about where you're living?
So freshman year, I lived in the honors dorm, and kind of like you mentioned, it's really nice. I think the dorms, because you have all your friends in one place. You know, it's nice. Not everyone is quite as spread out as you can get once you move off campus. So it was a lot of hanging out with my friends, hanging out with people on my floor, and that really helped me meet a lot of new people. Like my roommate I'd met him once before coming to Purdue, but he was random, and he's still my best friend and still my roommate. So that worked out really well for me. And then second semester, I lived in kind of a Purdue-run apartment, I would say. So I was still on a meal plan and stuff, but it was a little more autonomous in the way we lived. And then I'm off campus now, and kind of like you talked about, like I'm in one of the furthest apartments off campus, and I can walk to the mechanical engineering building in 8 minutes. I've never had to take a bus during my time at Purdue. That's actually one of my favorite things about the school. Like I've never once taken a bus here because I just walk everywhere. You don't need to. Everything's pretty centralized in the same place. I think my longest walk is probably 25 minutes to the co-rec. So, yeah.
Unless it gets really cold, then I would take
true.
the bus. Yeah.
I just brave it. Just go for it.
Yeah, I had a bike, but I didn't bike in the winter because it's cold and it might be a little slippery. But the buses are great, and now I'm old, but when I first started, you didn't have any live tracking of the buses, so you'd wait out there and never know when it's coming. Now you can actually see on a map exactly where the buses are, so you can wait inside and see when it's getting ready to come around the corner and run out to catch it. So it's the campus is very small. That's one of my favorite things that really drew me to Purdue is how small our campus felt. It doesn't feel packed though either. With so many students here, you'd think it would feel crowded, but to me it doesn't. I never would have guessed there's 30,000 undergrads, 10,000 grad students here. It doesn't feel that big. Mm-hmm. And so, the longest walk corner to corner is maybe 20 minutes if you're a slow walker. But with the bus system, with a very bike-friendly campus, now we have the bird scooters here on campus. So you can get a bird scooter. It's chaos. There's lots of ways to get around our campus to make things pretty quick. I thought I saw some more questions about housing. Sorry, I'm looking through some of these. There's a lot of questions to go through. So somebody asked, so kind of go back to what I was talking about, the averages earlier. Unweighted GPA, could that potentially make it biased towards taking easier classes? No. Because again, admissions isn't looking at cumulative GPA. They're looking at the grades in your specific classes and what level of class you took. So for engineering, they're going to be looking at your math and science courses, and we want to see advanced coursework. We want to see honors. We want to see AP, or at the very least, taking advantage of the difficult classes that are available to you. Not every high school has AP. We understand that as well. So we just want to see that you're challenging yourself, that you're not taking the easiest classes, because they're going to see that. So unweighted GPA isn't going to provide a bias towards those taking easy classes, because we're looking at the exact classes you're taking and seeing that you're challenging yourself. So I want to point that out. And then the averages, all the averages I listed, the average GPA and test scores, that is for engineering specifically. That is not the overall Purdue average. We tend to be higher than the overall Purdue average because we're a top 10 engineering program, and those are the kinds of students that we generally attract. So all those averages I gave were specifically for engineering. And if you want to email us for those averages again, feel free to reach out. We're happy to provide those to you. All right. What are some of the things to do off campus? Are you able to get involved outside of class? What do you do to kind of blow off steam, that sort of a thing?
So I'm a competitive powerlifter. I'm in the Purdue Barbell Club. That's something I kind of picked up since coming to college. I lift heavy things for fun. It's kind of my fun, my exercise, and my stress relief all rolled into one. So I just saw a call out for the Purdue Barbell Club, showed up, and now it's probably my biggest hobby. So I still have time with engineering, spend 15 hours a week in the gym, and that's probably how I spend a large deal of my time. There's a lot of restaurants, there's a lot of concerts. We have a big music hall where Waka Flocka has come. We have, I don't know.
Lady Gaga was here a few years ago.
Lady Gaga, yeah. Good people come. I think there's always stuff going on, and you can probably attest to that too.
Yeah, so we have a bunch of intramurals going on, and they have a website where you can just go and get a couple friends together and sign up for pretty much anything you want. I'm pretty sure there's log rolling,
there is.
What?
There is.
Yeah.
No, at the co-rec where you
so
stand on the log
logs in the water, and you're trying to run someone off of the log.
I've never heard of
Yeah, where
this.
like you stand on either end of the log,
Yeah.
and you like both like run on the log
Yeah.
and like try to get the other person.
That's
off.
hilarious. I think I have a new favorite sport
It's
at
real.
Purdue.
Yeah.
But you can do a bunch of different intramurals. I love doing sand volleyball. And one thing you'll notice about college is it runs in like all time of day. So I've been playing sand volleyball games at 11:15 at night under the lights. Pretty much any sport you want. It's really fun. I'm also in Purdue West Coast Swing Club, which is West Coast dancing, which is a lot of fun. So you don't look like a fool in front of
So
other people.
what's the difference between East Coast dancing?
So West Coast is more like kind of modern and a little more like you can kind of go with the flow and it's more modern beats. East Coast is a little more formal.
Interesting. All right. I'm learning all sorts of things tonight.
Yeah,
This is great.
Yeah. And then the biggest thing that I love about Purdue and doing free time is the sports. So we're a D1 school, and I don't know if you saw that Saturday game against Ohio State, which they were ranked number 2 and we knocked them off.
To number 11.
Yeah.
Boiler.
And we rushed the field, which was nuts. Which, by the way, was like a one-in-a-lifetime opportunity. I will tell my kids about it. It was unbelievable. But the Purdue sports here are amazing, and it's one of the reasons that I came here. It's so much fun. The atmosphere is incredible. And basketball-wise, too. Like, we're just nuts about our sports.
We're really like Purdue. I think in the past kind of had a reputation as we were always like pretty good at basketball, but not that great at football. But we're getting really good at football. Always good at basketball. We have really good women's basketball.
Great volleyball team as
Great
well, soccer
volleyball, yeah.
team. Our volleyball team's ranked currently. They're consistently ranked about every year the last couple of years. So, and we finally have all the right pieces together for football, and they're finally all meshing and coming together. We're finally on the up and up after a couple hopeless seasons, or more than a couple hopeless seasons. That Ohio State game was insane. I was there as well. That was a really cool thing. Not only did we beat the number 2 team in the country, we beat them 49-20. They didn't score their first touchdown until deep in the fourth quarter. But enough about sports. Sports are a lot of fun. You also get a really great student deal if you. There's a season pass called the boarding pass. Boarding pass. The boarding pass.
Yep.
It's $99 for the year.
Yep.
And you get tickets to every single home game across all Purdue sports. So for all of them except basketball, you're given all the tickets. And basketball, it's kind of a lottery system because they are very popular to get into. You just go on, and I believe it's you go to ones you're interested in, and you enter the lottery and try to get tickets.
People typically do.
Yeah, most of them you do get it. It's like maybe the Michigan State game. If you're like one of the last to try to get in a lottery, you might not get it, but you basically just request tickets to the games you want to go to for basketball. All the other sports, though, they give you all the tickets for all of the events. It's a really great deal for $99 for all the sports. I just kind of cry inside every year when I look at season ticket prices for us old people.
And I don't know. I know at University of Iowa, because I have a lot of friends that go there, it's $200 just for football tickets. You know,
Yeah, it's used to be how it was here.
Phenomenal deal.
Yeah.
Definitely a big perk.
Yeah. So that's some of the things to do outside of class. We have over 1,000 student organizations. We have intramurals. I had no idea about the log rolling. That's hilarious. Because I think that's my new favorite. Because my favorite before that was we have inner tube water polo. So you play water polo, but you're sitting lazy river style in an inner tube,
Didn't know that.
floating around on the pool playing water
I almost
polo.
want a BSF team.
You guys need to get a team together for that. We also have, if you're not like super athletic, we also have other ones like euchre. We have euchre intramurals. So if you're not from the area, euchre's a card game. It's a very much Midwestern card game. It is great. And we actually have an intramural where you play other teams across campus in euchre. So there is something for everyone and across all of it. And our engineering students definitely do have that opportunity to get involved outside of class. We actively encourage it. You don't want to just focus on academics. It's going to be too easy to burn out if you do that. You've got to have that stress relieving of following a passion outside of class. But also it's great to get involved in something that's kind of professionally oriented too, because it gets you experience in your field. It'll look really good on your resume and really kind of build you up for your future career as well. So we always encourage at least one professional and at least one fun thing to do. And there are lots to choose from here at Purdue. It cost me $90 for tickets to the Purdue versus Spartans game. Yeah, I know. Students have it really nice with their boarding pass. I'm jealous too. All right, let's see. Are there railroad clubs for students who love trains?
Oh, wait.
Are there?
So the Purdue Reamer Club.
Oh, there you go.
As you guys know, well, maybe you don't know this, our official mascot is not Purdue Pete. It's the Boilermakers Special, which is the world's largest, heaviest, loudest mascot.
Fastest.
Fastest, yep. It's street legal, so it's a giant train. People can ride in it. It actually travels to all of our away football games, maybe basketball games too, maybe. but it goes
It
on
goes.
the road.
It's like Free Ride Fridays.
Yeah.
For,
And
for most
it
of
can
you.
go like 60 miles an hour. And the Purdue Reamer Club like maintains it, drives it. It's a giant train. Like Google it. It's really cool. So I definitely would argue that there is no better school to be at if you like trains.
I mean, we're the Boilermakers. That's our mascot, is people that make trains.
Yeah.
We also, I mean, our mechanical engineering school, when it first started, it was one of the first mechanical engineering programs in the country, and we really got our start in the rail industry, building locomotives and innovating in that. That's really kind of where mechanical engineering made a name for himself at Purdue, was in the railroad industry. That's actually not, though, how we got the Boilermakers name. That's totally unrelated to our engineering program. Is actually back in the day when University of Chicago had a football team, I think it was in the 20s or 30s. Our football team played them at University of Chicago, and they like just destroyed them, just beat them like we beat Ohio State over the weekend. And the Chicago newspapers, I forget which one, said Purdue came in and rolled over Chicago like a bunch of Boilermakers, and we're like, hey, we like that, we're going to keep that. So we became the Boilermakers. It's just kind of a coincidence that we also had a long history in the locomotive industry.
Yeah.
But so that's how we're Boilermakers. And so there are some train events and clubs, and if you want to drive our train, you can join the Reamer Club. My two best friends were both in the Reamer Club.
I got 2 free tickets during homecoming. Haven't used them yet, but maybe all of us can go to ride on the train. Yeah.
Oh,
You
nice.
get tickets
You get tickets for what?
Yeah. I mean, you have to get tickets to ride on the train,
I didn't know that.
but it's really cheap. I don't know.
Huh. Well, they do Free Ride Fridays though, for sure. So
Oh,
there are
Free
ways
Ride
to ride it
Friday,
on
okay.
free too. Yeah.
Why did I get tickets?
I don't know what you got
What
tickets.
was-
I never heard of that before. I think somebody just kind of make you
Dang,
feel good. You know.
I was excited about that. Little did I know it's free.
All right. So hopefully that answers the question about, do you, as engineering students, have time to address your passions? I think we kind of covered a lot of that. You absolutely have the opportunity. We're getting a lot of questions about double majoring or majors and minors. Do either of you guys have minors?
No, but we've tried.
You've tried?
Well, I'm currently pursuing a minor in manufacturing. I've kind of bounced between majors as not majors. I've bounced between minors as my kind of professional interests have developed. But I'm currently doing one in manufacturing where I'm like, I'm interested in manufacturing, alternative manufacturing methods. So I'm on track right now to finish it. Even if I don't, I'm just taking classes that I enjoy. I think that's important too. Wherever you guys end up, take classes that you want to take.
Yeah, I will say, especially if you're bringing in credits from high school, that'll help make minors even more accessible. But really, just about anyone has that room, because for a lot of the minors, you can double count classes you're already required to take that will also count towards a minor. So it's usually only a couple extra classes in addition to all that. So even if you're bringing in credit from high school for 2 classes, that usually makes a minor easily attainable. And if you're bringing in more credits, it's even easier. Double majoring is very difficult. We usually don't recommend it. There are some opportunities to double major with engineering in like a foreign language. Maybe engineering with math, because you're taking a lot of math classes anyway. Outside of that, we don't usually recommend trying to do a double major. And quite honestly, you can usually get what you're looking for by doing a major with a minor and whatever that other passion is. I think it's just kind of a common misconception that students think they have to double major to be able to kind of get both fields, when usually you can get what you're looking for by doing a minor. So I think we had some questions of like some common minors for engineers. They're really all over the place. We have a lot of students that will do minors in business and management, in public relations. I think Kendrick was doing a minor in public relations and communications. They're also like political science, but also you can minor in other engineering fields. You can minor in science like physics or chemistry or math. You can even minor in computer science. So there are lots of opportunities to do minors. Just double majoring is a lot more challenging, but I promise that in the vast majority of cases, that if you look into doing a minor, you're going to realize you're getting what you're looking for with that minor and not having to worry about a double major. It might be possible to do a double major, but it would probably add time to graduate. I will say though, I just remembered the College of Liberal Arts just opened up an exception for students that are in STEM, like engineering, that you can do a double major in the College of Liberal Arts and engineering. And liberal arts has waived their liberal arts core requirements. So if you want to double major in a liberal arts program, all you have to take are the major specific courses. Mm-hmm. So it'll be your engineering major specific courses, your liberal arts major specific courses, and then what we call the University Common Core, which is what the general elective class that all students at Purdue have to take. So it still might add some time, or if you're bringing in credit, it might be doable in 4 years, but at the very least, they're trying to make it more accessible to add a liberal arts degree to your engineering degree, either through a double major. They have a lot of minors. They also has a new certificate program through the College of Liberal Arts called Cornerstone, which is about building a liberal arts foundation into your STEM degree, so in our case, engineering. So there are some more opportunities for that kind of opening up, but minors are very, very common to do. All right, let's see. So we covered a lot of the double major and minors. We addressed passions. Oh, did any of you guys do learning communities your freshman year?
I was in the honors engineering learning community.
Okay. What was that like?
So, the honors one is a little bit unique because it's not really, you're not living necessarily around all engineers, but you are living around all honors people in the honors dorms. But so there wasn't, if you're in honors engineering, you're in the honors engineering learning community, I would say.
So if you're unaware, learning communities are through the university residences and student success programs at Purdue. And basically, there's about a dozen that engineers can choose from. It's separate from your housing application. You'll also do an application to a learning community. If you're interested, it's not even required. And you're going to live on the same floor with everyone else in that learning community. So you're going to take usually 1 or 2 classes together, taking the same section of the same class. And then you're all living together. And then there's usually kind of an outside class, weekly or so activity that you all kind of get together and do things centered around the topic of whatever learning community you do. There's all sorts of topics. There's like engineering for the planet. There's networking. There's ones around other topics like there's bands and orchestras, learning community. But the idea is you're all living together, you're taking the same classes, and so you already have this built-in community of fellow students that are doing all the same things you are. So it makes it easier when you're doing homework. Everyone on your floor is probably working on the same homework. But even if you don't do a learning community though, engineering is about 1/3 of undergraduate campus, and then most students are taking all those same classes of like English and science and physics and chemistry. So there's always going to be students on your floor that are taking the same classes. But learning communities just kind of add even further to that of like everyone's taking the same courses. So I think they're really cool. I didn't do one as a freshman because I didn't know about them. So I don't know if they just didn't exist back 10 years ago or if it just they didn't really communicate it very well. I feel like I missed out. I would have loved to have done one, but I highly recommend them. They're a great opportunity to really make that even stronger of a connection with students on your floor in your dorm. So that's learning communities. Let's see. What are the other engineering students like? What do you guys think?
I should think as a whole, Purdue engineers kind of, I think, defy the stereotype a little bit. I think you'll find that everyone's pretty social. You know, I'm sure you're asking because of the kind of stereotype that engineers just do homework all day and everything. But, you know, we talked about all the organizations and stuff. Everyone's involved in something. Everyone's passionate about something. And I think Purdue engineers just as a whole are really good, social, well-rounded people.
Yeah, I really think, I mean, obviously you'll get the, either end of the spectrum. And there's definitely going to be a group of people that fit right for you. But honestly, Purdue engineers, because it is a difficult program and they're spending a lot of time doing work, they really go out of their way to find something fun to do. And a lot of Purdue engineers really are social and do actually enjoy themselves, not just study the whole time.
Yeah, I always like to joke, if you ever come to an info session and I'm leading it, I always like to do the cheesy joke of like, who wants to have a social life in college? And, you know, everyone raises their hand. And that it's true that engineers have a social life. Like, it's a complete myth that engineers don't, that all they have time for is studying and homework. There is a lot of studying, there's a lot of homework, there's a lot of projects, but it's all manageable, and our students have an active social life. And I think that's what makes our students so successful, is they're getting involved, which helps with stress relief and building that kind of support network outside of your classes as well. And we are a very collaborative and friendly student group. We encourage our students to help each other out, and it really shows. I think that's one of the main reasons we put you in teams in those first year engineering classes, to learn to work together, and that, you know, people around you have things to contribute. They have different experiences that can help you understand things. And engineering is not meant to be done on your own. You're always going to be working in team projects in your career and in college. So it was really important to us that even from your freshman year that we try to instill that really collaborative mentality in our students. And that's, again, kind of how our students are successful, is everyone's kind of helping each other out. I definitely agree with all that. How approachable are the professors outside of class? What would you say to that? I will say, to start, it's a 20 to 1 student to faculty ratio in engineering. So 20 students on average for every professor. I like to point that out because I like to brag about that, because we have a lot of students here, but we have a lot of professors. That's a really low ratio for being such a large program. So it makes them even more accessible by having that ratio low. So how approachable are they outside of class?
For me, I'd say it depends. I honestly didn't go out of my way really to approach professors freshman year, just because I took advantage of all the extra help that we were offered. But I will say that, you know, even if you don't approach professors, or if you can approach professors and you need help, there's this thing called Boilermakers, where all the other professors will put their lecture notes online. So if you need help from other professors or you ever want other professors' advice, it's really easy to talk to other professors as well, even if yours isn't approachable. But it really depends.
I think like all my mechanical engineering professors are all really cool, they're really good teachers, and they make it a point to emphasize, you know, come into my office hours if you have any questions. Like, they want you to come to them with questions. And outside of that, like, I lift weights every once in a while with one of my honors college professors. Like, they're just really, you know, professors are people too. They were once students like you know, not that long ago. And although they can be intimidating because, you know, they're all really, really smart people, I think they're really good resources to have. Like, even just going in, asking them questions, you know, like, I know people who have gotten job opportunities based on a relationship with a professor. There's just so many good things that can come out of hanging out with or just, you know, getting to know your professors.
I actually have just remembered one professor from sophomore year in BME who I think on Tuesday or Wednesday nights would go and play turf soccer with his students in BME. So,
Who is that?
Professor Babs.
Okay. I saw one of the engineering professors out running the other day, just running around campus. So they have social lives themselves. They're active. They are people, which is sometimes hard for us to remember when we're students, because we're just intimidated by the class and by the professor. It wasn't probably until my late sophomore and into junior that I started going to the office hours for my professors, and I realized I was missing out by not doing that earlier, because they are so approachable. I've heard a lot of cool stories from our engineering students over the years of like just neat interactions with professors, ranging from one, I think it was Robbie would tell the stories in civil engineering, and like week 5 or 6 of the semester, the professor walks in for one of his classes and says, all right guys, we're in week 6 and nobody's come to my office hours. If you had any idea what I charge for my consulting fee, you would be in my office every week because you're saving so much money by me not charging you. Basically saying like, I want to help you guys, I'm a resource and nobody's taking advantage of it. There was also a really cool story, I don't remember who was talking about this, but a group of students were studying for an exam, and it was like 9 o'clock at night, and they're in one of the study rooms, and their professor actually walks by for that class, sees that they're studying for his exam, and he actually like goes in and like helps them and stays with them for like half an hour to kind of walk them through things they were struggling with. They didn't ask him, he just walked by and saw that, and it was late at night, and he still took that time. So the professors are great resources. They really do care about the students. And so definitely, you know, no matter where you go, even if it's not Purdue, take advantage of those office hours because they are really helpful. I mean, they're the ones writing your exams. Sometimes they even wrote the textbook that you're using for your class. And so there is literally no better resource to go to than to go to your professors. If you are intimidated, there's also graduate TAs, teaching assistants that have office hours. They help teach the class and they help like grade, and they're also specialists in those fields too. So you can start with them and then graduate up to the professors, but don't be afraid to talk to professors. They are a really great untapped resource.
We'll say about the textbooks, just about every one of my mechanical engineering classes, the textbook has been written by the professor. He has a new initiative like lecture books, so they're kind of like spiral bound textbooks, I guess, and the professor wrote them, and you fill in your notes, you kind of write your own textbook, and I love it. And they know their own book so well that they just teach the material really, really well.
Nice. So I wish I would have seen this when Kendrick was still here. The difference between computer science and computer engineering. So we have computer science in the College of Science at Purdue. It's actually the first computer science program in the country, and at the time, it made sense to put it in the College of Science, and there it has always stayed. So we have computer engineering here in the College of Engineering, and really the main difference, we actually have a computer engineering student that works in our office, and he likes to describe it as, in his mind, the perfect combination of electrical engineering and computer science. So it's basically taking those CS principles along with electrical engineering and applying them to hardware and firmware applications. So the biggest difference is that hardware component. In computer science, there's not a lot of hardware. So it's mostly, AI, cybersecurity, machine learning, sort of those intangible things coming up with programming languages, creating software sets. And then computer engineering is then, hardware, motherboards, chipsets, firmware, all the things that the CS programming and software will run on, essentially. So if you think of like a smartphone, the motherboard, the chipsets, even the screen, the panel on it, through the low-level firmware that runs underneath the operating system. All that was computer engineers. And then computer science does the things to make that phone secure. So the cybersecurity efforts, the security algorithms, the machine learning that analyzes photos that you take, that falls more on the computer science side. So when it comes to trying to choose between the two, it kind of depends on how much hardware interest you have. If you have a lot of interest in hardware, you probably want to go the computer engineering route. And if you want to incorporate a couple extra computer science classes, you can. If you're not so much focused on hardware, and you're interested more in the machine learning, software design, that software development, that sort of thing, maybe computer science might be a better fit for you, and then you can do a minor in computer engineering if you want to get a little hardware. So there is some overlap, but to various different degrees. So that's kind of the brief difference between those two programs. Definitely recommend reaching out to our computer science program, reaching out to our computer engineering program, kind of getting their perspectives, trying to talk to some students in these programs about why they chose their respective major over the other, if they're considered both. That's the main difference between the two. We also have some other kind of specific questions, but I want to do some more student ones. Let's see. Do we have underwater basket weaving? I wouldn't be surprised if we did somewhere, but
Why have I heard of that?
It's a thing.
Maybe
it's a thing.
It's a thing.
It's like a meme.
It's a meme for like a college class.
Do you have wine tasting course? Actually, we do.
Yes.
You have to be over 21,
It's hard.
and I've heard it is actually really hard. It's not just a blow off
Not
class.
easy.
I've heard the other, because I've heard from a lot of engineers that it's like if you put in the time, it's really not that bad.
Really?
But it is a lot more than just wine tasting. It's like, how was the wine made? What's the history of wine? Like, where's it from?
Do you have to be able to figure out like the notes and the color?
I feel like you
probably.
should. And they have food pairings too, so you'll have like cheese and crackers with it. But it's not as much wine as you think. Like, it's an appropriate amount of wine to taste. It's not like it's just for.
I mean, it's tasting. I wonder.
Yeah,
In true wine tasting, they usually have you spit it out. I don't know if they do that in the class, but and also that's going to be at least 3 years away for you guys. So relax. But yes, that is here.
Chill.
That's a really cool thing though. Maybe for seniors, if you have that extra time for some extra electives, someone will take wine tasting. Someone will do bowling. We've got a bowling class. Golfing. There's history of rock and roll. Used to be a really popular one. So there are some fun classes like that you could take in your senior year when you've got those spare spots in your plan of study. All right, let's see. Can you guys please talk about the interdisciplinary aspect of your life at Purdue? I'm not entirely sure what exactly they're getting to with that, other than maybe like combining your passions out, like fusing other fields with engineering. Have you done any like research or like experiences that are kind of fusing other fields with your plan of study, or it's kind of it's a rather big question.
So I can talk about like biomedical engineering. I guess it counts because it's generally engineering with medicine in the medical field. But one thing that I'm really passionate about is like circuitry and kind of like nano bioelectronics. So we have a really cool integration in our bioelectricity class where the whole semester you're learning about bioelectricity, but then you're also doing a practicum, which is a hands-on build of essentially a prosthetic arm that moves based on your biosynaptic signals. And the way it works, I love this. This is nuts. You have electrodes that you'll put on your arm that'll read bio signals from your neurons, and then it'll translate it to a circuit board that you made. It'll amplify the signal. It will filter all the garbage, and then it will translate it to Python code. And then from Python code, you can say, hey, when I flex my arm in a certain way, this robotic arm is going to move in a certain way, in the exact way that I want it to. So that I thought that was really cool because I like the medical field, but it also integrates that electrical side.
Nice.
That's the question.
Yeah, I think that's a good example. Do you have any other kind of examples to share?
Nothing's cool as that.
I think just by design, a lot of our engineering majors are pretty cross-disciplinary. There's a lot of opportunities for overlap between majors. We have what we call technical electives. So they are engineering-specific courses, but there's a whole list to choose from, and you can actually incorporate from other engineering majors into your main primary engineering majors. So that's kind of a way to do some interdisciplinary outreach. And Jacob's story too kind of shows there's a lot of different pathways to a similar field. So when you think of prosthetics, a lot of people think I need to go into biomedical for prosthetics, which that's true. They do a lot of prosthetics. So that might be the overall design and kind of like the brain tie-in for prosthetics. We could also go into electrical and computer engineering for the circuitry, the hardware that's running, that's controlling the prosthetics. You could also go into mechanical engineering for different parts of like the sub part of the design, the actual systems within it, of getting better motion and movement, the gears and that sort of thing that work within a prosthetic. So there's lots of different kind of routes within the field of prosthetics. And so by going into biomedical, you can incorporate electrical engineering, or you can go into electrical engineering and kind of incorporate some of the biomedical, like prosthetic sorts of things, either through a class or through the different clubs we have in engineering. We have the IEEE club, which is, it used to be like the professional society for electrical and computer engineers. Now they've actually opened up to all engineering students, even I think all majors at Purdue. And they have, I think, 9 different teams in IEEE. Are either of you in it? So each team has a different project, and they're typically like robotics projects. So like there's some that are working on underwater ROVs. There's some that are working on prosthetic design. So there's opportunities to kind of get that interdisciplinary experience, not just through your class, but also through the different things you can get involved in around campus outside of class too. So there's definitely a lot of room to get that breadth of opportunity, that breadth of experience while you're still a student here. Is playing a varsity sport doable with an engineering major? Yes. So we mentioned we're Division I athletics program here at Purdue. We're part of the Big Ten. We actually had over 70 engineering students that were student athletes last year. I don't have the latest count for this year, but I know at least 2 on our women's basketball team. We've got, I think, 9 at least. Maybe it was 19 on our football team. Both of our quarterbacks are engineering students on our football team. So it is absolutely possible to be a D1 athlete and be an engineering student. It's difficult, sure, but athletics has all sorts of academic support for the athletes. And we really, you're a student athlete, and we really emphasize the student portion of that. So it's definitely possible to combine both. But also, if you don't want to do, D1 level, we have all those intramurals that we talked about and club sports, so you can play other teams around campus. We also have some like club sports where we'll play other universities, just on a, not necessarily the D1 level, but still a competitive level. So there's ways to kind of get those fixes, if you will, explore those passions outside of D1 if that seems a little too daunting for you. But it is possible. We have a lot of students that do that. Oh, here's a great one. Have any of you done a study abroad?
Want to.
You want to?
I want to.
Oh gosh.
I can talk about other people.
Sure. Yeah. What are some examples you know of?
So one other person in our club, PSF, Kevin Chamberlain, got to go to England. No, he went to Italy for a spring vacation study abroad, where he was learning about like Italian culture and the influence on the Renaissance, and they went to a bunch of art museums and everything. They got to eat a lot of gelato. There's a bunch of different opportunities for studying abroad, either for a week, or you can do like a semester, or you can even go up to full semester study abroads. We're actually taking courses and you're staying on track with your college career. There was another person, Catherine, who she got to go to the UK for a week to study Harry Potter literature. Because it was an honors college class. Yeah. So another cool thing about honors, cool classes you could take. But she, the thing she boasts about that the most is she took a selfie. I think she was in an airport or something, but she took a selfie with Daniel Radcliffe. And how fitting is that she was doing Harry Potter studies and he just happened to be there. He's Harry Potter.
And it was a pure coincidence too. Yeah, really. It's nuts. I know we have a student that works in our office. She's in nuclear engineering, and she did a study abroad. And they went to a couple different places, but the highlight was going to Chernobyl. And so they got to analyze, they got to go there and kind of see what all happened and take some measurements and that sort of a thing. So obviously, as a nuclear engineer interested in nuclear reactors, that was like thrilling for her. I think it'd be cool too. I'd love to do that. So there's all sorts of opportunities for study abroad. For engineering specific, there's over 26 countries. I think there's over 60 or something like that for Purdue wide. And over 400 study abroad programs in general. So you can do engineering courses, or you can stick with general electives. It's totally up to you. There's plenty of opportunities for all of them. There's 1 week long ones for spring break. There's even some over winter break. There's what we call Maymester, which is 2 or 3 weeks right after classes end in May. You'll spend part of the rest of the month doing a study abroad, but then still have the summer to do whatever else you want to do. There's summer long, there's semester long, there's even some year long opportunities. So there's lots of opportunities for study abroad. We highly, highly encourage it. We really kind of pressure our students to do it. I'm like, go away, but come back. But it is a real focus for us to try to get our engineering students to have that international experience. It's great for personal enrichment, seeing other cultures, but it's also really good for professional gain as well, because employers like to see international experience on a resume. With how global engineering is, having that international experience can really help be a great welcome addition to your resume. So definitely recommend doing study abroad, and it doesn't usually have to add time to your graduation. As long as you're letting your academic advisor know that you want to study abroad as soon as possible, like your sophomore, even kind of your junior year maybe, as long as you let them know, they're going to help you work it into your plan of study. Many students will do it over the summer, but there are opportunities to do it during a semester as well, and it doesn't have to add time. So it's all just a matter of making sure you plan it with your advisor, and they can make it happen for you. I would say it's probably pretty rare that doing a study abroad would delay. Typically that's if you waited too long to try to do a study abroad, of like, oh, I just didn't have time, I waited till my late junior or senior year, and by that point it's too late. But yeah, definitely highly encourage study abroad. I love this question a lot because this is one we do get a lot. What would you guys say to someone who says that Purdue is in the middle of nowhere and there's nothing to do around there compared to being near a big city? What is your response to that?
So I don't think that's true at all. I think within Purdue specifically, we got a lot going on. I mentioned the concerts, you got the sports, all that kind of stuff. You definitely stay busy. I don't think you need a huge metropolitan area to stay busy here. But if you're really looking for that big city, there's Indy an hour from here. There's Louisville a couple hours. Like me and 3 of my friends one night, it was a Thursday night, we're like, we're going to drive to Louisville and get barbecue. And we did. So we drove like 3 hours there. I got back at like 2 a.m., but totally worth it. There's Chicago, 2 hours from here. So there's definitely those things that are just within striking distance if you really want the big city atmosphere, but like I don't think you need it here to stay busy. I don't think it's necessary at all. You got enough going on.
You're never bored. I mean, there's always, if you're bored, you're not looking hard enough for things to do. What are some things
I mean, I think we touched on it before. Sports was a big one, and people are always finding something to do with either clubs or IMs and school, so they tend to stay pretty busy. I really don't. If you're bored in college, you're probably doing something wrong.
Yeah.
To be honest.
I was never bored. I mean, you also, just by getting involved in things on campus too, but we also kind of mentioned like concerts come to town, Broadway productions come to town. I'll be hopefully seeing Spamalot next semester. They're going to be here in I believe March. So we get Broadway musicals, we get musical stars, we get musicians come through, and a lot of really big names. So there's a lot of festivals in West Lafayette and Lafayette. So there's lots of things to do around here. Yeah, we're kind of in the middle of cornfields, but there's still plenty to do. And I think we've done pretty well for being placed in a cornfield. Like we didn't choose a location, it was donated. And it was just happened to be a plot of cornfields, and I think we've done really well with what we were given of building not only a great campus, but all sorts of great things to do in West Lafayette and Lafayette, as well as being really close to the bigger cities. So a lot of students will take weekend trips. We had our fall break last week, 2 weeks ago, and one of our students works in our office in aeronautical engineering. He and some of his ROTC buddies went to Nashville over the fall break for a few days, and so it's easy to do those kind of fun trips. So I know that's saying like a lot of this is talking about leaving the town, but there's still plenty to do in the town too. But if you do want that big city experience, it's definitely attainable. Are internships available for first year engineering students? Did you guys have internships after your freshman year?
Yeah. So I did a co-op session. Not my first summer, but it was my fall semester, sophomore year, and I got that as a freshman. I think that's a pretty common misconception, is that you can't. I would say a lot of companies, like most of your interviews, every interview I've ever had is behavioral in nature. So it's less about your technical skills and more about who you are as a person. So, if you guys come in and you have, you don't have to have a huge amount of engineering experience to get an internship, but if you're a good person, you're excited about working for a company, they're definitely attainable. And I know a lot of my friends who have gotten them without having, any ridiculous technical experience or anything like that.
Sure.
I personally didn't have an internship after the first year. and correct me if I'm wrong, but one thing I've noticed, it seems like it's a little easier to get a co-op earlier on in your academic career than as an internship.
Yeah, and that's actually kind of by design. Our 5-session co-op program, you have to get your co-op your freshman year because you're going to spend 5 semesters off campus, and so that's your time to apply as your freshman year. And so if you're doing a 5-session co-op program and you get a co-op, you got it as a freshman, if that makes sense. For internships, it is a little bit more on your own. You can do it whenever you want to start to apply. I always encourage our freshmen to go to the career fairs, even if you're not expecting or wanting an internship, to still go because it's a great experience. You're going to kind of figure out how the career fairs work. You're going to get a little more brushed up on how to present yourself to employers. So then when you go the next year, you're going to be more prepared. You're going to know how it works. You're going to be less nervous, which is going to lead to even more likelihood of getting an internship. But yeah, I would say it's not uncommon for freshmen to get internships or co-ops. It's hard to know exact numbers because a lot of times the university won't even know if you did an internship over the summer. It's very much an on your own thing. So I don't know exact numbers. I do know that 89% of our students that graduated last spring from engineering reported having at least one internship by the time they graduated. Most of them had more than one. So our students are getting internship experience that want it. The opportunities are there. We had almost 1,700 unique employers recruit from our campus last year. They physically visited our campus. I'd be willing to say that's probably at least once a week we have an employer set up shop on campus. Like they have their own recruiting days, so they'll just kind of set up shop, as well as we've got about 30 career fairs. Every engineering major has their own career fair. We have one of the largest student-run career fairs every fall. They have our second largest one is in the spring. There's even a co-op specific career fair that happens in February, where students that are interested in co-op, this is your best opportunity to get one, and you're guaranteed, I think they still guaranteed 3 interviews. At the very least, you're guaranteed 1 interview at the very least. But that's where most of our students get their co-op offers, as well as through that co-op career fair. So there are lots of opportunities to talk to employers, and we have a phenomenal career services center, the CCO, Center for Career Opportunities, that helps you prepare for all this too. They do resume critiques, they do mock interviews, they have a jobs board where they maintain relationships with employers around the world. So they do anything and everything they can to help you be prepared to get these interviews and internships. So I would say Purdue does a lot to help you find these experiences. Just like though with getting help outside of class, it's on you to take advantage of those resources. They are there, they're free. It's just you got to take advantage of them. We're not going to hold your hand through the whole process, but we do everything we can to give you those opportunities. Speaking of getting help outside of class, we haven't really talked about that much. So we talked about first year engineering is not a weed out program. And we give you all the skills you need to be successful. So what are some of those things that you guys have done outside of class to get help? We also talked about office hours, but are there any other things too that you think we should mention on, getting help to survive your classes?
Honestly, I'd just say working with other people. Like in high school, I was used to going home after practicing with the soccer team. I'd be home at 6, so I'd just work alone until 10 or 11 at night. And after first year engineering, working on that team of 4 people, a lot of the homework and group work is difficult to the point where it's really hard to do alone. So I kind of learned to work with other people, and the majority of the homework I do now is with other people, and it goes a lot quicker, and it's usually right. So that is the biggest thing I'd say is in terms of studying is I'm pretty much always doing it with other people. And
we talked a little bit about recitations, office hours. There's also supplemental instruction sessions, which Jacob mentioned a little bit earlier, where you can just go in if you don't understand a lecture concept, go in, a TA will reteach it. You can ask questions. There's so many resources available, and that helps a lot, because engineering isn't always super easy, but working with others helps make it a lot more manageable.
Awesome. I saw we had some follow-ups. We talked about computer science versus computer engineering. I mentioned you can do a minor in computer engineering if you're majoring in computer science. However, you cannot do it the other way around, which sounds weird. So you cannot be a major in computer engineering and minor in computer science. Sounds weird because you can do it the other way, but there's a reason. I finally asked one of the academic advisors in computer engineering why that is. It turns out the classes that are required for the computer science minor, the concepts that are taught in many of those classes are already taught in your computer engineering class. So it would be redundant. You'd be taking classes of things you already know. So that's why they don't allow a minor in CS. So instead, she said, if you're interested in a CS minor, you can't do the minor, but you can take a couple extra CS classes to incorporate those additional skills into your major. And then your advisor would help you figure out what those classes are. So you can major in CS, minor in computer engineering, and you can major in computer engineering and take some extra CS classes. So it's not officially a minor, but it still does extra classes. I also think that shows, though, the overlap between the two programs. And as far as like, if you're worried about not having an official minor, kind of like with honors, employers don't care about minors. They probably hardly ever even look at it on your resume. They're more interested in the skills you have, the experiences you have. So don't feel like you're going to miss out by not having an official minor if you're doing the computer engineering CS route. Hope that answers that question. All right, we also have a question about, so somebody mentioned they're undecided between engineering and maybe something in science. And is it difficult to switch from engineering to something outside? We always recommend, if you're torn between engineering and something outside of engineering, start in engineering. It's usually easier to start in engineering and then change into a different major than it is to do the other way around, of starting somewhere outside of engineering and coming in. And that's for two reasons. One, we have the highest class requirements generally of all the academic programs on campus. So if you start another program, you may not be taking the appropriate levels of courses to transfer over into engineering without taking some additional courses to start. The other reason is we cannot guarantee space in first year engineering. So if you start another major, we may or not have space availability in our programs. So we recommend starting in engineering. It's very easy to transition to another one if you end up not liking it. Then just try to start somewhere else and move in. Two exceptions to that, exploratory studies. If you're really undecided, exploratory studies at Purdue is great for exploring different majors to see which one is a good fit for you. The other exception to this rule is if you're torn between computer science and the College of Engineering, we actually for that one recommend you start in computer science. And then if you decide you want to do engineering route, you can come into engineering, assuming we have space. Computer science has been closed for the last couple of years due to capacity that you can't even switch into computer science from elsewhere on campus. So that's an exception. You might want to start in CS first. Otherwise, we recommend starting in engineering. And who knows, you might find out you love engineering. We have a 90% first year retention rate. So, I mean, most of the students find their fit here in engineering. So yeah. Let's see. I did talk earlier about the difference between engineering and polytechnic. So you can either, we will post this video on our channel later within the next week. And what we like to do is we actually will put in some tags in the description of the topics that were discussed. So if you want to check back this video in about a week, we'll have all the tags and you can see where we talked about engineering versus polytechnic and be able to jump to that section. Or you can also email our office rather than kind of going through all this again. So we've got about 5 minutes left, it looks like. This is a question I want to cover. So we just got one in. Is it possible to transfer to Purdue for biomedical engineering from a community college? Part of my job is assisting students that are interested in transferring to Purdue engineering from other universities. So if you ever have questions about transferring to Purdue engineering from another campus, definitely reach out to me. You can just email our office, future-engineers@purdue.edu, and I'll help you. I do want to point out biomedical, for the first time this fall, they have opened up the ability to apply as a transfer student to biomedical. It used to be closed for several years, but I'll say they have very, very few spots per year, that it's extremely difficult to transfer into biomedical engineering. So again, we always recommend, if at all possible, starting here on the West Lafayette campus and going from there, rather than trying to start at another university and transfer into engineering. That's a much harder process. So I just wanted to point that out. All right, so finally, I just kind of want to sum up with why you guys, I think we kind of talked at the beginning, but why you chose Purdue. What were some of the other colleges you were interested in, and what ultimately made you choose Purdue? And I'll have one final question after that.
You want to say?
Sure. So like I was saying before, one of the big reasons that I chose Purdue is because I didn't get U of I for their bioengineering. So I have kind of a parent answer and then a student answer. So the parent answer is I picked Purdue because for the price and for how close to home it was and how prestigious it was just the right choice in terms of getting that job after college, because that's the whole reason we go. That's the parent answer. the student answer, because if that's the only reason you pick a college, you'd be very lucky to enjoy your 4 years there. The student answer is go to campus, see how you feel. When I came here, I absolutely fell in love with it. Just seeing how many people were wearing Purdue gear told me how much people really cared about their school. There's an incredible passion and dedication to the school here. I've even heard of an alumni before who had like a Purdue decal car, like completely decked out in Purdue gear.
Nice.
But that big driving factor was that it was just somewhere I could see myself living for 4 years, hopefully 4 years, and it was just a really great atmosphere. And the whole point is, do you want to live here for 4 years? It's not just you have to go here for 4 years to learn. So that was kind of my deciding factor, and definitely make that yours as well.
Yeah, and I agree with just about everything you said. Like I mentioned a little bit earlier that my dad came here, and so kind of for that reason I didn't want to, but I had the opportunity to do a camp here and loved it. And when I finally came and visited, and saw students here and stuff, I think the two big things that really stuck out to me is that there's not a culture of competition. Purdue's one of the top engineering schools in the country. We're ranked really highly in just about every engineering discipline. But if you walk around, you see kids working together on teams. You see like people just aren't competing with each other for grades. Like it's not trying to weed you out. We talked about that. And that was really important to me coming here, that I'm not fighting with someone for a grade or something. And that's really been my experience as a student. There's not a culture of competition. People are always willing to help each other, and that's important, in a major as kind of difficult as engineering is. And also, I'm from a smaller town in Iowa, and so I was kind of intimidated about coming to a school this big. And I already touched on it a little bit. Like if you walk around, if you guys come and visit, it doesn't feel like there's 40,000 kids here. It's not that huge of a campus that it's intimidating or anything. Like I don't feel like just a number here. And the program really does a lot to build you up as not just an engineer, but as a really good person and someone that's easy to work with too. Like if you go into industry, like in my internships, I've used some of my engineering skills that I've learned in my classes, but the most important things have been working on teams and working with others and keeping a positive attitude and stuff and communication. And the program just does a really, really good job of emphasizing those things in addition to kind of all your technical stuff. So I would say overall, just it builds you as more than just an engineer. You come out of here, and I feel right now like I'm prepared to go into the workforce. And I've enjoyed my 3 years here. I don't regret it at all. And I think it was, for you out-of-state students, I think it was worth it for me to take a little more of a leap of faith to go to an out-of-state school. And I definitely don't regret any of it.
Awesome. So my last question to you guys is, going back, if you can, I know it's been a few years, to a senior applying to colleges, what piece of advice would you have, maybe that you wish you would have known when you were applying to colleges, for our viewers?
Applying to colleges? Can I give a piece of advice for college?
Sure.
Okay. So for college, I'd say obviously your academics and GPA is everything, but the biggest possible thing that you can get from college, which Teddy was just saying, was communication skills and how personal are you, and do people actually want to work with you and really get along with you. That is key when you get into the workforce, and just key is just being a fun person to be around. So my biggest piece of advice is go do those weird clubs, go do clubs where you're talking in front of a bunch of people, do something that gets you out of your comfort zone, because after your first job, your GPA is not going to matter, but how you communicate to people will.
Yeah, and I completely agree with that. Like freshman year, I think I was a little too concerned with getting a good GPA and stuff and didn't involve myself as much, and that's one of my biggest regrets going into college, is not kind of putting myself out there and trying to meet new people and just focusing on the academic part of college instead of the social. And I think the most important thing for me when choosing a college was visiting. While you guys are here, we'll give you tours. We're tour guides, so maybe if you guys come and visit Purdue, you'll have a tour from us too. But like walk around on your own, get a feel for the campus, and just take advantage of kind of all the opportunities. If you're interested in mechanical, set up a meeting with a mechanical professor. We're here to help you guys, so just take advantage of all the opportunities that you can as you're visiting, and enjoy it. It's kind of a special time where you're just traveling around trying to figure out where you're going to school. It was definitely fun for me, so
yeah, my biggest advice is talk to current students at the universities. Definitely visit in person. I think is one of the most important things you can try to do. But if you can't make it in person, I understand some of you, especially if you're international or from really far away, find ways to talk to current students by doing these sorts of things, by calling our office, emailing our office. try to connect with students at the universities. Find out what they love, what they don't really like about the university, why they picked that university over other ones they were considering, to really get a feel for what the campus is like. Because my biggest thing is helping students find their fit. And that might be Purdue Engineering, it may not be, and that's okay. The important thing is that you make an informed decision and have all the info you want to know to find out if it is the right fit for you or not. There might be some, like, more than one university that's a good fit for you. There will definitely be ones that are not. And so it's all about figuring out what you're looking for in a university and then seeing what universities have those things. And the only way you can do that is by visiting and or asking questions, like you've been doing tonight, which is great. So the other thing, if you're torn between different majors, I know we talked about, starting in engineering, but obviously if you can figure out what your fit is before you even start, as far as engineering versus science versus whatever it may be, that'd be even better. And so my recommendation with that is to talk to these different departments, talk to students, talk to professors, find out the career outcomes, but really, I think even more importantly, look at the plans of study for these different things and see what plan of study has the most, like looking at the class titles, what one has the most classes that seem interesting to you. Because if you are taking more classes you actually are interested in and enjoy, you're obviously going to do a lot better. And so looking at the actual major itself, not just majors as a means to an end of what career do I want, and then what major should I take. Instead, look at the majors themselves. See which one has the most interesting and relevant classes to your interests. So those are my 2 pieces of advice, but never be afraid to ask questions. So thanks so much for tuning in tonight. We had a lot of questions. I know we didn't get to all of them. If you have any specific questions about applying to Purdue, specific situations, should I do this or should I include this? We definitely recommend reaching out to the Office of Admissions. They are the ones that process all the applications. They read all of them and they're making all the decisions. So they are the best ones to reach out to for that. So it's admissions@purdue.edu is their email address. Their website is admissions.purdue.edu. Definitely reach out to them for specific questions about applications. But for more general questions about applying or just general engineering student life, academics, that's what our office is here for. We have a ton of current engineering students working in our office, and anytime you call or email our office, it's almost always going to be a current engineering student. So email us at future-engineers@purdue.edu. Visit our website. It is there on the right. All of our social media is there on the right side of your screen. And don't be afraid to reach out to get all the info you want to know. So thanks so much. Have a great night and good luck with all of your applications. Oh, November 1st. November 1st is the deadline for early action. I want to stress that. Definitely, if at all possible. You've got 8 days. Applying by November 1st will automatically consider you for merit scholarships. You'll also be able to apply to the Honors College if you want. If you apply after November 1st, you will not be considered for merit scholarships. You will not be able to apply to Honors College as an incoming freshman. You can apply to Honors College if you're a current student, but you'll miss out for your freshman year. And obviously, we won't have nearly as many spaces in engineering. We fill up the majority of our spaces from those that apply by November 1st. So if at all possible, apply by November 1st. Our regular decision deadline is January 1st, but I recommend before November 1st. So any other questions about that, reach out to us or admissions. That is it for real this time. Thanks so much for tuning in, guys. Have a great night, and don't be a stranger. We'll see y'all later.